Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Preparing for Life Storms with BexarPrepper. Today is Tuesday, January 8th, 2013, and it's my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. We are on air from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time every Tuesday on American Preppers Radio, powered by PrepperBroadcasting.com. We broadcast 11 different hosts 7 days a week. So please check out the host tab for more information on shows and times. You can also listen to all previous shows under the host archive. If you'd like to join us in the chat room, come on over to PrepperBroadcasting.com and click on Listen and Chat at the top of the page. Then scroll down to the chat room. Create your name or just accept the default and come on in. You'll always be in for a treat with some lively chat and interesting conversation. So tomorrow night, Wednesday, at 8 p.m. Central Time, we have Goat Hollow and the Surreal News, the facts about where our world is heading without all the slant. Now, quick word from our sponsors so we can pay the bills.
This broadcast is brought to you in part by Ozark Mountain Preparedness, providing top-quality instructional courses for people who desire to pursue a self-reliant lifestyle, whether in the wilds or right at home. Course topics include wilderness and urban survival, fur trapping, bushcraft, primitive skills, long-term wilderness living, land navigation, GPS, home disaster preparation, outdoor cooking, food procurement and storage, foraging wild edibles, and many others. Visit Ozark Mountain Preparedness at www.ozarkmountainpreparedness.com. This broadcast also brought to you in part by Emergency Essentials: power outage, hurricanes, flash floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, solar flares, job loss, zombies, Armageddon. It doesn't matter what you're preparing for, Emergency Essentials will help. From tips for preparedness to food and water storage to ready-to-go emergency kits. Visit their website at beprepared.com and let Emergency Essentials help you prepare for, well, anything.
You know, that zombies in that commercial gets me every time I hear it. Just makes me want to laugh. Okay, so it's great to see everyone in the chat room tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight we're asking the question, what are your top 10 food storage items? And before I get going, I just want to say I'm not really good at reading your questions in the chat, so please feel free to give us a call with your questions. The phone number is 347-202-0228. When you think about food storage, you know, that's a really huge question. Are you talking about a few weeks, a month, or a year's worth? These are two different beasts. Then you have the question, do you store in bulk or canned off the shelf? So tonight I decided to make the decision to pretty much limit our discussion to long-term, 1 year or greater, so that we can really devote the time necessary for a thorough discussion. One of my first requirements before you ever even get to the point where you're considering getting your long-term storage is to have a 3-month supply already in place. This would be, you know, mostly off-the-shelf grocery store items and a few other things. And once you have that, then you need to think about your long-term storage. Your short-term supply should be foods that you just eat all the time, you know, things that you're currently totally used to, no experimentation type thing. Because if something happens, you want to be able to have some food for yourself right now without having a learning curve. The goal when you get your long-term storage is to really experiment, create meals, play with different modes of doing wheat, and learn the different techniques that might make things easier for you. And then you slowly incorporate those into your short-term supply. Then your long-term and your short-term supply will become one beast, and you won't be managing these different things. I have been eating from my food storage for about 35 years, and there have been times in my life when I didn't maintain my food storage, and I have definitely lived to regret it. So that kind of leads me into why should we have food storage? For me, as you know, food storage is not Armageddon, solar flares, or zombies. It's about the smaller things in life that can trip you up, like being laid off or getting sick or being unable to work or to help others in situations like Katrina or Hurricane Sandy. My heart really broke to see people eating out of dumpsters during Sandy. Boy, am I tongue-tied tonight, folks. That is a position I never want to be in, expecting somebody to take care of me in times of crisis and then failing miserably. I would be the one to pay the ultimate price, not them. One of our first considerations is how long will our long-term food storage last? Because what good is it to store something if you don't know how long it's going to last? So I'd like to share tonight some interesting examples of how long it has lasted in the past. You know, this is one of the most often questions I get asked on my YouTube channel is, how long does this last? How long does this last? You know, well, if I can that, how long is that going to last? And so this will give you an example of just how long this stuff does last. Back in 1865, the steamboat Bertrand, laden with supplies, including canned goods, was destined for Montana, and it sunk on the Missouri River just off the Nebraska bank. It was covered in silt and finally excavated in 1968. Among the canned food items retrieved were brandied peaches, oysters, plum tomatoes, honey, and mixed vegetables. In 1974, a chemist at the National Food Processor Association, NFPA, which is what I will call it from here on out, analyzed the products for bacterial contamination and nutrient value. Although the food had lost its fresh smell and appearance, which is the one reason why I rotate my meat every 8 years, is because of the appearance, the NFPA chemist detected no microbial growth and determined that the foods were safe to eat as they had been when they were canned more than 100 years earlier. NFPA chemists Janet Dudek and Edgar Elkins report significant amounts of vitamin C and A were lost, but protein levels remained high, and all calcium values were comparable to today's products. Now, there you go, 100 years. Now, remember, they used all steel cans. They didn't have this aluminum or, we've got a mix now with aluminum, and it's on the tip of my tongue, but it's not steel. And so our cans don't last anywhere close to as long. They also analyzed a 40-year-old can of corn found in the basement of a home in California. Again, the canning process had kept the corn safe from contaminants and much nutrition loss. In addition, Dudek says, the kernels looked and smelled like recently canned corn. Isn't that awesome? 40 years, no changes. And that was in a jar, home cans, without adding the stuff that people like to say you have to add to your corn. Just saying. According to a recent study co-sponsored by NFPA and Department of Agriculture, canned foods provided the same nutritional value as fresh grocery produce and their frozen counterparts when compared for the table. NFPA researchers compared 6 vegetables in 3 forms: home-cooked fresh, warmed canned, and prepared frozen. Levels of 13 minerals, 8 vitamins, and fiber in the foods were similar. In fact, in some cases, the canned had high levels of some vitamins that the fresh produce was destroyed by light and air. So it was actually better for you than putting fresh vegetables in your refrigerator and letting them sit for a week. So, folks, trust yourself in home can. If you've never done it, go to my YouTube channel. Check out how to can fruits and jellies. If you decide to get a pressure canner, there are some great videos throughout YouTube and, of course, on my channel that'll tell you how to do it. And, you know, we have better canners than we've ever had before throughout history. They don't explode. They have so many safety mechanisms on them now that they're extremely safe. You don't have to worry about having it go through your ceiling like they did 50 years ago. The FDA apparently wrote an article on canned food safety, heavily referencing the NFPA report, but the article itself has gotten lost on the Internet. It is worth pointing out, though, it did take place in fresh water. This was not in salt water, which would have deteriorated the can at a much rapider rate. There was no special protections. They were put in a crate just like they used to. And the study was done by the trade association, so it could be biased. But I think they were probably excited that it lasted any time whatsoever, so I don't know how much they would have lied about it. It's unclear from the third or fourth hand reporting if all the cans were tested okay or if just some of them, so keep that in mind. Still, I think it's an impressive example of the safety of home canned goods or canned goods when stored in undamaged cans. So the cans, I have my note here, the cans were steel, not steel, but aluminum and tin is what ours is now. So I just put my note in the wrong place. Don't forget to call in if you have some questions. The phone number is 347-202-0228. We would love to hear from you. So, you know, don't make the mistake of waiting until it's too late to start your food storage. Store it up now before your personal storm hits. It won't help you if when you need it, you don't have it. So let's get started now. I have a note here to tell my story about what happens when you don't have food storage. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes here and tell you about that, why food storage is so important to me. And part of food storage is teaching people how to do it, and that is the whole premise of why I started my YouTube channel. I couldn't find any YouTubes on canning meat, and I couldn't believe that people weren't doing this all over. And so I started my YouTube channel with one video, canning meat. It ended up being two because I can talk forever. And then I got an email from somebody that said, could you, tell me about the pressure can? And I said, sure, I'll do a private video for you. And they said, why would you do it private? And I'm thinking, because nobody wants to see me. I mean, I went, oh, okay, then I'll do it public. And that was almost 2 years ago. So when I was about 20, I stopped replenishing my food storage. I was living the moment-to-moment life because I started canning when I was 16, 17. And I had a roommate that a couple of times a month I would give a check to for groceries. And, yes, it was a blank check. I know. Dumb move. Well, my roommate's boyfriend moved to Texas. Interesting that I'm here now. I was in California at the time. And all of a sudden, she was talking to him all the time. And, I should have thought more about that, but I was 20, I was freewheeling, and I didn't. I came home one day, and she had left a note that she was moving to Texas, and goodbye. I thought, well, good for her. About 4 days later, I get a phone call from the phone company. They said I had to pay a bill. And I said, well, I paid my bill on time. I already paid it. What's this? And they go, well, you've had almost $500 in long-distance charges over the last 10 days. And I went, oh, my goodness. I said, okay, I'll send you the payment. Famous last words, right? Of course, they weren't willing to accept a payment. They wanted a bank check because, remember, I was 20. I was in the military, and my paycheck was really small because I didn't get BAS and, basic quarters. I had a room on base, but I was living off base. As a matter of fact, I was living in a shed that had a toilet. Yeah, but I loved it. It was better than being in the dorms with a roommate who had lost her home and had moved all of her furniture into the room, feeling the floor. Oh, and her boyfriend was sleeping in the top bunk with her. Yeah. So the next day, I went to the bank, and I just got paid a couple of days prior, so, we got paid monthly. So I thought, okay, I can pay this, and I'll just let everything else go that I possibly can. My rent was $170 a month for a shed. So I figured I could talk to the landlord and kind of postpone that a little bit. Well, when I got to the bank, you guessed it, my account was empty. Yep. She cashed out my account with a blank check. Yeah. So, being in the military, first thing I had to do was I had immediately to go to my first sergeant, because you can get an Article 15 and booted out of the military for not paying your bills. So I explained to him what happened, and he said, well, you need to make all your bills right, and we will file this and da-da-da, because I had proof of, the phone bill and everything else, and it was Texas and all of that, and the plane ticket that she got. So, because, of course, I had to call the airport, and we had to get permission to get her proof that she had purchased the ticket. All right, so now, okay, that's taken care of. I'm safe with the military. But now I don't have any money, and I really don't have any food. I'm like everybody else out there that doesn't have food storage and have about 1 or 2 weeks' worth of food in your refrigerator. Yeah. So after 2 weeks, there was nothing left. I had even eaten the mustard and the ketchup and the mayonnaise as a meal. So I'm digging around the house, and in the couch I find 2 dimes. Woo-hoo, I'm rich. So I go to the grocery store and walking around the store, and the only thing I can find for 2 dimes is 2 10-cent cans of tomatoes, tomato sauce. So I buy those, and that is what I proceeded to eat for the next week. At this point, I had absolutely no clue what to do besides pray. Well, my mom showed up the next day with a bag of food, and she said she was cleaning out her freezer and thought I could use it. Oh, Lord, could I use it? And, yes, I don't ask anybody for anything. And, yes, that is a great flaw of mine and one I am working on. And I could have paid the ultimate price for not being willing to ask for help when I needed it. So, from that moment forward, I never allowed my food storage to lapse. And over the years, my food storage has helped many others through hard times. I've never had money that I could spare to help others, but I've always had plenty of food. So please take having food storage seriously. You never know what tomorrow may bring for you or those you love. And it is such a godsend when something happens you weren't expecting and you can at least eat. So I said I would talk about top 10, and it's really hard to come up with a top 10. But I think I've narrowed it down to what I believe, and I think every individual is going to have a little different top 10. Oh, I'm bad. Mrs. Volpe is in the queue. Hey, Mrs. Volpe, come on in.
Hey, darling, how's it going? I was getting all caught up. I forgot I was even waiting. I was listening to your story.
Well, I'm glad you forgot you were waiting, hon. What can I do for you? What would you like to share tonight?
Well, I just haven't talked to you in a long time, so I thought I'd pop in and say, you know what? I wanted to say thanks because, I mean, when I first started on YouTube and I didn't know, my behind from a pillow, when it came to prepping and homesteading and all that stuff, you are a really big help to me. And I'm going to tell you something. Recently, there's been some infrastructure changes at Howie's work, and his bring home pay was cut in half. And on New Year's Day, after my son went and spent all his hard saved money that he'd been working, and saving for the last couple of months on Christmas, where he worked closed down on New Year's Day, and he didn't find out until the day before he was supposed to go back to work.
Oh, no.
So prepping and food storage has made a huge difference because, when your paycheck's cut in half and then you're losing the room and board, but you're still feeding that, 200-pound or 180-pound teenager, it can make the difference between, it can mean the difference between, a craft dinner from the dollar store to, proper food and nutrition. And,
no kidding. I mean, think about it. With all the homesteading that you are showing everybody and the position it put you in to have all that at your house now, thank goodness for that.
I mean, yes, we're dipping into our preps, but frig, we got them there to dip into.
That's what they're for. Yeah,
absolutely. So, so I just wanted to say thanks. It was kind of, and when you talk about the 10 things to have, you need, I think of things like, yes, we need rice and beans, and wheat or flour or whatever, but you also need, like your tomatoes and like I'm a big one for canned tomatoes because they're just so high in vitamins, and they're so versatile. But I mean, I've actually narrowed down how I'm going to plant my garden this year to only 6 or 7 items rather than 15, because I'm going to keep it simple to what we use the most when it comes to our canning and our gardening stuff.
Well, you know what I'm doing, and you might think about that, is I'm doing whatever I plant, I'm canning enough for 2 years or 3 years. So
I'm going
to
try.
I can not plant that for the next 2 or 3 years and focus on something else.
Rotate. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. But, it's absolutely wonderful to hear from you, Miss Volpe. I love your videos. And if you guys don't know her, it's the Mrs. Volpe, correct? on YouTube. And she's got a lot of great homesteading and canning videos. And
a lot of them I learned from you.
Oh, and I worked with her on the honeys, and we had a ball when we were on the honeys together, Homestead Honeys. They're on Thursday nights at Jats to shoot me 8 p.m. I'm having a break party.
You know what? I don't know. I just know it's 9 o'clock my time.
Because
I never get to bed before 10.
Yeah, because you're in Canada, huh?
Yeah.
It's the Canada perspective. So
we actually it got up to just above freezing today, and true Canadian, the snow's now falling off the trees in great big wet lumps because we had a mild patch, and if you'd have pulled in my driveway, you probably would have seen me standing on my front step breathing that above freezing air in my shorts and a t-shirt.
Oh my
snow
goodness.
all over the place.
Here I am in Texas complaining because it got down to 30, and I'm like shivering.
Oh, well, though, that's our mild. That's what it got. Just if it was probably 32 to 33 degrees today, and it was like yes, because we got down to probably minus 10 Fahrenheit here a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my God! No!
Hey, I got a wood stove though.
We actually got down to I think, what was it, 19 or 18 at the retreat, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
that's cold.
You got to get some meat on your bones, girl. I mean, if I know, but and I can't lose and you can't gain. Between the two of us, we're just the right perfect person.
There you go. Hey,
anyway.
I put on 20 pounds, so.
Good for you. Oh,
I'm
BC.
working hard.
Someone just said, Jim in Texas just said, I once lived in BC. Honey, that is our Florida. BC's our Florida, unless you're up in the mountains. I'm going to let you go, Bear. I just phoned to tell you and I love you, and I was thinking of you, and Woodsy there came onto Facebook and said, I'm heading over to Bear's show, and I went, you know what? I'm available tonight. I'm going to go.
So, thank you, Bevan. It's so great for you to call in.
Take care, sweetheart. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
Don't
bye-bye.
be afraid to email me, all right?
All right, I won't.
All right, take care, darling. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. And folks, like I said, check out her show on the Homestead Honeys on Thursdays at 8 p.m. She does an amazing job, and she teaches a lot of really cool things that I know a lot of my followers have listened to and done. Ask Pat about the chickens. She'll tell you there. Okay, so what do I consider to be the most important food storage items? Now, this was a really difficult decision for me because I have to go back in my mind to, you know, what were my thoughts about my food storage when I started, and what things did I and do I still think are really important to have. And so I thought about things that are very versatile. And I think that's important because if you have your 3-month supply, you need things that are versatile so that you can work them into your daily life. So, of course, my first one, and it will always be my first one for now to eternity, is water. Water, you know, you've heard the saying, 3 minutes without air, 3 weeks, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. So water is my number one. And, yes, I do consider that a food storage item. You know, at my home, which, yes, is a trailer, I have gallon jugs of water all underneath it. I have the tub insert for the bathroom. And then out at the retreat, I have IBC tanks. So I'm looking to get a 5,000-gallon tank for the retreat because I just want something a little easier. So water is number one. Next is wheat. And I know a lot of people, if you're gluten intolerant, take the equivalent of wheat. And when you're thinking about what's equivalent, think of the characteristics of wheat. You can grind it, you can soak it, you can grow it, you can eat it whole, you can flake it. There's a lot of things you can do with wheat. You can make meat with wheat. I have a video on that. You could just do so much with it. I've been experimenting with wheat. I have a guest coming on that's going to teach us how to use our wheat if we don't have a grinder. So don't let not having a grinder stop you from getting your wheat stored or your equivalent to wheat if you're gluten intolerant. Rice. Of course, you know, you look at any Japanese person and they may be slim, but they eat a lot of rice and they survive on it. You know, back in World War II, a lot of the families, that's all they had was rice and whatever tubers they could pull up in their backyard. So it is life-sustaining, and it stores really well. And that was another consideration I made on these was how well does it store? Because if I don't know how to cook with it, then I need for it to be able to store long enough for me to learn to cook with it so that I can get through the rotation of it. Next was beans. Same thing you can do with wheat, you can do with beans. You can make meat out of it. You can grind it and make bread out of it. There's just so many things that you can do. You can use it as a filler. You can mash it and mix it in with your soups. And for those that don't like beans, you can hide it in brownies. Yeah, done that. You can make bread out of it, you know, like sweet bread. A lot of things you can do. And there's so many different beans, and they really do have different flavors. So try different beans. You know, my favorite is kidney beans. I love kidney beans. So I keep kidney beans canned. That's the only bean that I can at all. And I do that because in my family, I'm pretty much the only one that likes to eat beans. I just like beans. And so I keep a jar canned, and then I can just open it up and throw it in my salad, or my canned jar of chili. I don't can it with beans. I could throw it in with my beans on my plate only, and then not everybody else has to eat it. I do sneak it in. I mash them, and I mix it into the chili so they don't really know they're getting beans, but they are. Just a hint there. Okay, next is sugar, honey, your sweetener. Sugar and honey are my favorites because sugar and honey both last indefinitely. When you do sugar, you don't have to Mylar it. You don't want to put an O2 absorber in it because it can cause it to harden to a brick if you get any moisture. And if you put too much O2 in it, it induces moisture and you'll get a nice brick. So don't use O2 in that. Just put it in a bucket and seal it. Honey, buy it by the gallon. It may crystallize, but all you have to do is put it in water and warm it, and it'll turn right back into liquid. Next is oil, lards, butters. Oils. Yeah, I know a lot of people like, to get the canola oil or the coconut oil. Coconut oil is not bad. It lasts a long time. I prefer the extra virgin olive oil. And I do that because it is of nutritional benefit. It stores extremely well. If you're going to buy extra virgin olive oil for your food storage, buy it in the can. Don't buy it in the plastic bottles. If you can't go through a gallon in a year, then buy it in the smaller cans, but it is going to cost you more. If you have a world market in your area, you can get extra virgin olive oil in the can for $22. If you go to your grocery store, that's going to cost you $50. And I got hooked on extra virgin olive oil when I lived in Greece. And I had a can, and I fell in love with it. It lasts wonderfully. When it goes bad, it goes bad. You smell it. You can use it in your oil lamps and all that kind of stuff. So it's never wasted. Lard, make your own if you can. Just remember to purify it. If you don't purify it and you just put it on your shelf, it will mold. So you can it. A lot of people do that. I just purify it. And purifying it is just simply boiling it in water over and over until you've got no particles in it. Butter, canned butter. I love canned butter. I recommend you don't can butter with salt in it. And the reason I say that is what happens when you're cooking your butter, that salt changes form slightly. And so when you open your jar later, it's almost crystallized, hard crystals, and it's very grainy. You can always salt your butter after you open it. So use the unsalted now. You're going to have salt in your food storage because that's my next item. It's salt. So Mrs. Volpe's asking, why not in the plastic bottle? Because of air and light. I think she's talking about the oil. Air and light get in there, and it will increase how rapid your oil goes rancid. The cans are amazing. Once you go to a can, it takes me a year to go through. Well, it takes me a year to go through 2 gallons of olive oil. But I have been at the point where I went through 1 gallon of olive oil in a year. And that olive oil did not go rancid. So if you're going to do food storage, you don't want to be rotating everything constantly. You want to kind of rotate on a schedule. I rotate a quarter every year. So I make enough to last 5 years. I don't rotate it the first year. The second year I take a quarter out, I rotate it out, replace it. Rotate it. So in 5 years, I've rotated everything I did that first year. Saves me time and money because I'm buying now at these prices, not with inflation. So next was the salt. Got to have salt. Salt is the spice of life. You just need it. And it's better to get the non-iodized just so that you don't have to worry about what you're using for what. If you don't have the money for the non-iodized, then go with regular salt. Just know that if you use it in canning, things are going to be a little cloudy. It's not going to destroy it. It's not going to hurt it at all. they just aren't going to be as pretty. Next, I have powdered milk. There are so many things that you need milk for and so many things you can do with powdered milk. I love cheese, and the ability to make cheese is important to me. So with powdered milk, I can make mozzarella, I can make Parmesan, I can make yogurt. So powdered milk is very important. Now I have a couple items on my list that aren't really food, but I think they're important with your food storage. Yes, Jim, pink Himalayan salt has 92 minerals, absolutely. But for some people, that is cost prohibitive. So that's something you need to think about. How much can you get for the money you're spending? It depends on your situation. So the two items I have on my list that are not actual food items, one is toilet paper. You eat food, you got to go to the bathroom. Toilet paper is important as a food storage item. I don't want to use leaves. I don't want to use magazines and newspapers. So for me, it's one of my top 10. And pool shock. Pool shock you can make bleach out of. You have a choice. You can store a gallon of bleach that will lose its potency and doesn't store really well, and you have to rotate it. If you buy pool shock, just a little container of pool shock, heck, if you bought a gallon of pool shock, you would never have to buy it again, and you can make all the bleach you wanted to make. Because bleach is important. If we had an issue like Hurricane Sandy, you need bleach to clean things up. Bleach for your water to purify. Bleach to clean up everything so that you don't get anybody sick, because if I'm in a situation where I'm living off my food storage and there is a deer on my property and I need some meat, I'm going to shoot that deer and I'm going to can that meat up. Well, to can that meat up, okay, with a pressure canner, you don't need to sterilize. But if everything's sitting out in the open air, I'm going to want to wash it with bleach before I stick my beautiful venison in there. So those are my top 10 items. You know, folks, feel free to call on in and give me your top 10. The phone number is 347-202-0228. Now, let's talk about monitoring your food storage. It is important to monitor your food storage. Not only should you be checking occasionally to make sure that your seals haven't blown, but you need to be rotating it out. And in order to rotate it out, you need to have some way to manage when you put it in there and when it's due to be rotated out. Now, there are a lot of online food storage monitoring applications out there. I won't use those. You know, all it takes is for the government to decide food storage, and having more than 3 months is against the law, and then all they have to do is go to one of those sites, serve them with a warrant, and get a list of everybody and what they have. I'm not interested. I do have an Excel spreadsheet, and if you go to my YouTube and put in food inventory, there is a link in the description box. You don't even have to watch the video if you don't want, to a Google Doc that you can download and do your food storage. It monitors, I think, 3 expiration dates. So for each item, you can have up to 3 expiration dates. And you can put in how many people and a shopping list. If you watch the video, it'll tell you all that good stuff. Now, another benefit of food storage, MIB, do I have a video on how to make bleach out of shot? You know what? I don't. And I don't think Yankee Prepper has it up anymore. But I would check there. And you could even ask Yankee Prepper if he will make that available, because I know he had it at one point on how much to do for each one. It's on the bottle, you know, the bag. I've got these little bags, but I cannot remember off the top of my head what the ratio is, and I do not have a video. I will try to put one together for you. So part of food storage is saving in bulk, by buying bulk purchasing. And there's a lot of ways that saves you money. Not only do you get cheaper prices because you're buying a larger quantity, you save in the gas every single time you go to the store, or you would have gone to the store for that item. You save time, so now you have more time to can up the things that you want to can up. You buy your beans, make a bunch of chili. You can get the sales. I had that Zacon food, $1.69 for boneless, skinless chicken breast. Minimum purchase was 40 pounds. I got 80. What an amazing deal. So I paid that price, and I'll be eating off that for the next, we eat a lot of chicken, probably just for the next 2 years, if even that. But you can save money because you're not running to the store all the time. You've got the sales, and you're also going to beat inflation. And, yes, got a question from Pet Prepper. It says, Bear, pool shock needs to be calcium hydrochloride, right? Correct. Yes, it is. And so, yes, I will do a video on that, folks, okay? All right, looks like we have Andrea in the queue. Hey, Andrea, come on in.
Hi there, Bear. This is a really good list.
Oh, thank you, and I'm so glad you called in, hon. It's great to talk to you in person again.
Yeah. One of the things that I would personally add to this list, just because I'm vegetarian and I need to have, fresh greens and stuff in my diet, like live food, is I would have seeds, organic seeds that I can sprout. For instance, like clover. Clover is a really good one. If you sprout clover, it's better than alfalfa because it lasts 3 times longer than alfalfa seeds do. Okay? It's bigger, hardier, lasts longer, and it will stand up. It'll just stand up under non-refrigerated situations or less than optimal cool refrigerator temperatures. And I would get sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds and sprout those. Of course, since I'm vegetarian, I use these also for my protein. And then, of course, if you have your wheat, you can sprout your wheat. And if you have kamut, which is a kind of like an old, kind of like an heirloom wheat situation, you can use it to make beer, or you can sprout it, and also you can use it for bread.
So that's what that stuff is. I was always wondering what that stuff was and never bothered to ask anybody.
Yeah, kamut, and let's see, what was the other thing I had? Spelt. Spelt is another thing you can use. If you're allergic to wheat or allergic to gluten, you can use spelt. It is a type of wheat that doesn't really have gluten in it, or not enough to set you off.
Nice.
So,
yes,
yeah.
Sprouting is a great idea. And, I do have tons of sprouts in mine. And, of course, I'll have a garden, too. But you're right. Those are points that people need to consider about what should be in their top 10. It's very individual.
Yeah, for sure it's individual and stuff. And the thing about sprouts, though, the sprouts are so nutritious that they just about have everything. In fact, if you were to take a seed, it would be basically about 70% fat and about 30% protein. But once you sprout it, that changes opposite to 70% protein and 30% fat, and vitamins and minerals and all that sort of thing. But it basically changes to be actually more nutritious after you sprout it. And then, of course, if you green up the leaves and stuff, wow, you got a nice deal there. So for the price and the storage space and how long they last, seeds are incredible storage material.
That is a great idea. Just recently, one of the ladies in my office became a vegetarian. And so I gave her a vegetarian cookbook, and then I bought her a sprouting jar and gave her a bunch of sprouts. And people don't realize how wonderful nutty flavored sprouts are. They are so good.
Oh, yeah. Not only are they good, but they help your digestion. So, like, when we're going to be sort of under the gun, so to speak, and under hard times, we're going to need all the amino acids that we can possibly get. And if we're going to be eating a lot of canned things and preserved things, we're going to really, really need fresh, live food, and sprouts are really going to fill the bill, and they're so easy, and they don't actually take much water. And you can recycle the water, okay? You can even recycle the same water if you pour the water on the sprouts and then drain them, use that same water. You can do that.
And there you go. And, if people want to experiment, I'm sure everybody has beans in their cupboard. They can experiment with that. There's all kinds of things. Just try it and see what you think of it. And you can just use cheesecloth even. I just use a jar with a piece of metal screen over it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, I'll let you go. This is a great show. I just wanted to mention about the seeds. And, of course, you can always use these seeds to go in the ground, too. So they're sort of multi-purpose.
There you go. Well, thank you, Andrea, for bringing in the perspective of the vegetarian. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, hon. Okay, folks, before I get back into it, because I see I'm running out of time, I want to talk briefly about something I have coming up. And I'm getting ready to hit my 2-year anniversary on YouTube. And I can't believe it. I started, and I remember when I got 3 subs, I was like, oh, my goodness gracious, I have 3 subs. And now I have 10,000. And so I'm going to do what I call, it's going to be a subscriber-only contest. So if you are not a subscriber before I announce the contest, you cannot win the prize. And it is going to be a doozy. Breaking Bread the Healthy Way over on Jackson Keller, 210 Jackson Keller. I've had them on the show before. They are going to be assisting me with the prize. And you really want to get in on this one, folks. So you got to be a subscriber, so make sure you subscribe before I announce the contest. Okay, one of the things that determines how good your food storage is or how well you maintain it is to use it. The first step is to learn how to cook from scratch. I know a lot of us don't want to do that. Well, maybe not a lot of you, but a lot of people don't want to do that. And learn how to make the basics. Those are the kind of things I teach on my YouTube channel, because if you can learn to use it, you can bring it into your cabinets and you can use it on a regular basis. It's very important to store what you eat and eat what you store. Otherwise, your food storage becomes this beast over on the side of the room just waiting to attack you. So let's take a few minutes to address objections to food storage, because I know that's always a big one for people. The government will take care of me. Well, if you believe that, then go back and check out the video of the people eating out of the trash can at Hurricane Sandy. I think there's enough said on that one. Only extremists have food storage. Because of shows like Nat Geo and, of course, like the Simpsons show the other night that G-Man wrote a wonderful article on, prepping is seen as a negative and not a positive. And, real preppers are about being self-sufficient and not being a burden and helping others. So, it's not extremists. Most extremists are the ones that say they're going to take their gun and go out in the woods and survive. Good luck with that one. I don't have room to store food. Everyone can find nooks and crannies to store extra food. As you know, I store my food in the shed instead of in my home. What that means is, for me, I have to rotate more frequently. I manage this by not having short-term items on my shelf. I don't do store-bought cans. I store ingredients and home canned items. So, and if you're worried about home canned items, again, refer to the beginning of the show about all the tests that were done. I have enough. The average person has less than a week of food in their home that they can eat. I don't know about you, but I sure didn't see FEMA getting everything resolved in a week. Just doesn't happen that way. And last but not least, I can't afford it. Everyone can find a couple of dollars extra. Unfortunately, we as a society have labeled wants as needs. And this really messes up our ability to think logically about what our needs really are. Try an experiment for me. Eat only out of your cupboards for a week. Okay. I'll even give you the fridge. No special stocking up before you do this. Then let me know if you really have enough. You can email me at BexarPrepper@att.net and let me know. I hope a lot of you take that challenge. You know, sometime as soon as it gets a little warmer, because, yes, I'm afraid of the cold, I'm going to be doing the weekend to start living off what's in my house, because my philosophy is if SHGF happens and say it's an EMP, everything I have here at my home, which is 3 months of supplies, I'll give to my neighbors, because I don't want them breaking in my house to get what I have here. So I'm going to give it to them. And then, you know, and then I'll head out to where I need to go. But I would like to know if I could live off what I have here without having to go out and get anything. I pretty much know I can when it comes to food. It's all the other things that I'm not sure of. You know, I have toilet paper, but do I really have enough water stored to flush the toilet, to cook with, to rehydrate all the foods that I have? You know, I think I've probably got about 100 to 200 gallons minimum under my shelf. Whoa, we got some static, folks. I don't know if you can hear that, but okay. So I'm looking at the time, and I'm just about running out of time, and I am very terrible at reading the chat room, so bear with me, and I'm sorry if I missed any of your questions. And DB has put some links in the chat room for things that I have that I found that I thought might be useful for you. That Pomona pectin is really something that I'm interested in getting because it has an indefinite shelf life. It never goes bad. All right, so I will see you again Tuesday, January 15th at 8 p.m. Central Time, when we'll be talking to a fellow YouTuber, Charlie in the Bot. As we can see from the media, the different subjects our representatives are talking about, changing in our laws, it's possible that in order to get what they want, they might and we might see false flag events to push the people into allowing them to limit our inalienable rights. Charlie believes it's important to understand false flags in history, and I agree. Without understanding what our government and other governments are capable of from the past, how can we prepare for what they might do in the future? So tonight I'm going to leave you with my quote by Thomas Jefferson. We have the greatest opportunity the world has ever seen as long as we remain honest, which will be as long as we can keep the attention of our people alive. If they once become inattentive to public affairs, you and I and Congress and assemblies, judges and governors would all become wolves. And folks, wouldn't you agree? That's exactly what has happened. For now, you can find more from me on YouTube and on Facebook, also here every Tuesday on PrepperBroadcasting.com. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Good night and blessings.